everybody, it's Shay. I just wanted to give a brief introduction before the start of this video. This is not your usual RP ASMR POV video that you're used to from my channel, or that you might be used to from other ASMR channels if you're just finding this. This is more of a audiobook style immersive narration of a collaborative writing project that me and my close friend Moth, whose credits you can find in the description, have been working on lately, and that I wanted to bring into an audio format. Because of the restrictions of this writing and the way that it kind of passes back and forth between us, there is going to be some strange creative play with perspective occasionally that, without context, might be confusing. So, for that reason, I have put together a little visual aid for you all, so that you know what's going on. When this one comes up, it means that the character Maude is speaking, and you are hearing her thoughts, her perspective, seeing the way that she sees the world. When this graphic comes up, it means that Alicia is thinking, speaking, whatever. The narrative is going to be constantly flipping between these two, so if you ever get confused, you can just look at the screen and it'll change color and display the name at the top there. Other than that, I hope you enjoy, and let me know what you think in the comments.
What?
Maude held the phone to her ear, pacing around the room with a hand rested firmly on her hip. She hushed her voice.
I don't understand. You can't just... No, I get it, but there isn't any time... She is your friend. Can't she move with you?
Despite all of Maude's questions and reasoning, the outcome seemed to have already set itself in stone. With her roommate having announced that she was moving in with her boyfriend quicker than the flip of a switch, Maude found herself with a new roommate, Alicia. Alicia was certainly a wild card, as Maude would try to put it kindly. She would have the energy to be out all night till the break of dawn, yet couldn't find it in herself to follow even the simplest of chores on the chore list. How hard was it to follow? Color-coded and everything. She appeared out of the blue a few weeks ago under the guise of something happening with her previous roommate. Maude held out on the thought of her being gone in, at most, a month. But now that reality seemed further away than she anticipated. Maude hung the phone up, walking out of her room and past the living room where Alicia laid on the couch. She mumbled in quiet anger, something about inconsiderate and irresponsible. Alicia was splayed out on the couch, one leg draped over the back and the other planted on the armrest, her head nestled loosely on the cushions with her hair fanned out like an overgrowing garden of weeds. Weeds would be right, too, because she was looking low effort today. Messy, tangled hair, baggy track pants, an old white t-shirt, a Letterman jacket of some kind, and, most importantly, fuzzy winter socks. She rubbed the bridge of her nose, phone held with the other hand right above her face, her thumb idly scrolling over social media feeds. The hangover from last night had largely subsided, but nothing could get rid of that slightly queasy feeling. Maybe she should have ordered in something greasy after all. Was it too late to? Maybe some of her friends would want to meet up and get some hangover food together. Considering how wasted some of them got, they probably needed it more than her anyways. She sighed, making some clicking noises with her tongue as she pondered, ears picking up on the hurried, neurotic tapping of feet on linoleum. Lazily, her eyes trailed over to the source of the huffing and muttering, only to find her sort of, kind of roommate by default, Maude Augustine. She was in, God, what was it? Tourism? The fashion course? Something like that. She honestly didn't know much about the ball of pink-colored stress that was Maude, except for a few base facts. 1, she did not like her. 2, she was a complete control freak. 3, well, she didn't really know too much else, but the vibe she got was that she really needed to get laid. She seemed like one failed group project would send her into a full-on psychotic meltdown
That's how high-strung she was. Oh, actually, she did know one more thing. She was very fun to tease. "Fuck, who's shitting your cereal?" she said from the couch, not moving at all with the exception of her angling her head towards Maude, seeing the world from a sort of upside-down, side-slanted perspective. She shot the girl a small, smug smile. Not necessarily mean-spirited, but kind and warm was different. This was mischief tugging at her lips. "Nobody has shit in my cereal," Maude retorted, taking out a carton of oat milk, giving it a shake. "And I don't even think that's a real saying." She sighed, turning on the espresso machine. "I've just heard from Olivia that she'll be moving in with her boyfriend, which, good for her. So happy for her. You know what? I'm so happy that she decided to just up and leave without even a week's warning." Maude turned to Alicia with her hands resting firmly on her hips. A sarcastic, exasperated smile strained her lips. "Oh yeah, sure. Let's not tell Maude you're moving out until the literal day you leave. Don't mind the paperwork it takes, or the fact that Maude is already swamped with work. She'll do that. Of course she will. Let's not apologize for the nights you spent having sex so loudly in the next room Maude couldn't sleep. Why don't you leave the house a mess before you do? Or leave your Maude paused. She let a deep inhale slip through her nose, letting her chest rise like wind slipping beneath palm tree leaves. Maude had never seen Olivia as a particularly bad roommate. She had her own qualities that made her a great one, in fact. But Alicia sprawled out on the sofa like some Greek goddess, seemingly completely unfeeling toward the situation, only soured her nerves. It just twisted the knife further in. Maude raised her jaw, trying to regain some sense of composure. As she tilted up the carton into her glass, she found that the milk barely reached halfway. Maude shot a glare towards the couch. "Did you finish my oat milk?" Alicia watched the girl rant and rave angrily with the tiniest hint of a smile still lingering on her face. What kind of blood pressure must this feral poodle of a human be dealing with on a daily basis? Alicia turned to her side on the sofa, arms shifting to support her head and legs curling inward somewhat to preserve the comfy warmth she had been lounging in. Ugh, I needed some blankets in here. This house was so chilly. She let the palm of her hand smush into her cheek as she plucked some hairs out of her face. Look at her still smiling, despite being so clearly pissed off. Who does she think she's fooling? She knew plenty of people like this, so desperate to keep their image intact, though figures fashion students were like that. Film and fashion were both pretty big on the vanity and the networking, after all. She's seen some people shatter under the weight of expectation the industry puts on them. Not everyone could properly distance themselves from it, after all. Maude seemed to be one of those people. It kinda made Alicia want to push a little more, test the boundaries of Maude's no doubt fragile ego, but it wasn't worth it. It never is, usually. With girls like this, it's best to just be indifferent and avoid actively seeking out the trouble. In the end, not paying attention to them was the worst kind of punishment you could give them. Looks like trouble was coming to find her anyways. She looked up over at Maude, stood with the carton in her hands. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I thought it was Liv's. Not even a hint of remorse. An apology was a pipe dream with that tone of voice. Indifferent and unaffected. She yawned, turning to look at the phone in her hand again. Starbucks cups and cats flooding her timeline like usual. What a boring feed today. Plus, don't you think you're overreacting? It's not like you two were married. She's just gonna live with her boyfriend. No more loud sex in her room, right? She swiveled her head back around to face Maude, shooting her a know-it-all look. Plus, the paperwork is like 2 pages. You're a big girl. You can handle it. Her head turned back to the phone again, sighing audibly. Unless you need the sex noises to go to sleep. I can see if I can take some more people back here, if that's what you want. Okay, maybe she was going to push the boundaries just a little bit. Just to test the waters. What's the worst that could happen, right? Maude scoffed, tossing the carton into the trash can. Of course Alicia wouldn't understand. She seemed like the type that simply waited for others to clean her mess for her instead of doing it herself. She had overheard her once telling Olivia that she simply needed to get some, which Maude found incomprehensibly rude, as if a man would ease her stress. I will do without the sex noises, thank you very much. You already bring enough people over as is. Maude poured the ice into her drink, stirring it around. I've seen you hanging around Juliet around campus. She's in my art appreciation class, but you still bring every other girl here. Maude raised the glass to her lips as she took a sip. Her face soured slightly at the bitter taste with the lack of oat milk. How was Maude to describe Alicia's reputation on campus? A flirt? A party girl? A heartthrob? Though heartthrob may be too generous of a title. No, Maude would often hear her name in delighted whispered tones or squealing conversations, overwhelmingly from women. The way they spoke of her, Maude could have assumed she would have been some tall, dreamy, prince-like woman. But her newly found roommate was painfully the opposite. It wasn't so much the fact that she was adored, but more that it was horribly obvious she knew of it. Juliet's a nice girl. You shouldn't treat her to be so disposable, Maude muttered into the glass. Alicia paused her scrolling, and with the shifting of clothes and the creaking of couch cushions, righted herself to sit crisscross applesauce on the couch. She closed her phone, placing it on the coffee table before leaning back into the cushions. She leaned an arm over the back of the sofa, just so she can watch Maude a little more attentively. She lets a slight silence fall as Alicia's eyes seem to pick apart every little micro-expression and sound mumbled against the rim of the glass. Ah, so is that what you think of me? It was a relatively innocent question, but there was a lot of intent behind it, like the answer was strongly expected, and Maude would be judged for it accordingly. The feeling lasted but a moment, though. As Alicia sighed and shook her head, she dispelled the brief spike of tension before the answer could ever arrive. Not worth it. You've got the wrong idea, Pinky. Juliet's sweet and all, but she's too innocent for me. She never knows when you're flirting. Fuck, I've watched guys flirt with her, and she just laughs it off as if they were jokes. Dense as a brick, that one. Plus, I'm pretty sure she's as straight as an ironing board. She smiles briefly. Clearly a slight amount of fondness towards the aforementioned Juliet was present in Alicia. Nah, we're just friends. Though, if she ever asked, I'd gladly take her back here. I'll let you know if it ever happens so you can warn her of how dangerous and awful of an idea it is or whatever. Alicia chuckled inaudibly, breath escaping through her nose. Disposable, huh? That's a pretty mean thing to say about a classmate, don't you think? I never said she was disposable, Maude protested. I said not to treat her like she was disposable, because she's not. She rolled her eyes, taking another sip of her coffee that only ended up in her tongue hating her for it. She noted Alicia's shift in demeanor and the quiet that settled between them. Was she offended? Maude chewed on her lip. I'm just saying that you go out to parties a lot, and most of the time come back with some new girl on your arm. I'm all for exploring partners, but I hope none of these girls think you're more serious about them than you actually are. Maude stuck a container inside the microwave, watching as the machine hummed to life. The smell of grilled cheese slowly wafted through the house before it came to a satisfying ding. It's not very nice to play around with girls like that. Alicia looked over at Maude with slight surprise, the amusement hard to hide on her face, before an invisible force pulled at her lips, forcing them to let the held air escape in a barrage of chuckles. The giggling turned to cackling as Alicia let herself drop forward, letting both of her arms dangle over the edge of the armrest. Have you asked the girls? 'Cause from what I hear, it was very nice of me to play around with them a little. Her lips curl back, teeth bright and slightly sharp canines on full display, a mischievous grin to rival the Cheshire cat. Little chuckles still escaped her occasionally as she continued. Honestly, Maude, have you ever done anything for fun? What, are you a hardcore Christian or something? No sex before marriage? She tilts her head slightly, bringing her arms up and leaning her chin on the palms of her hands. Those girls knew what they were signing up for, because they know how to have fun as college students, now that life is still uncomplicated and friends are easy to find. Do you, Princess Augustine? Hey, I am fun, Maude retorted almost instantly. I'll have you know, I used to throw many parties before I came and moved here, all right? I was on the school party committee, even. And it wasn't a lie. In Maude's extravagant youth, she had often found herself the belle of lavish parties or attending her parents' dinner parties. She was well versed in the ways of hosting, which is why she found Alicia all too annoying. No consideration for environment or class. She flipped her perfectly brushed hair off her shoulder, letting it fall down her back like silk. Just because I didn't attend the same parties that you do doesn't mean I didn't know how to have fun. It's not my fault that I... Maude leaned against the counter. Her eyes wandered slightly in thought as she tried to come up with a good enough excuse. The truth is, Maude had simply drowned herself in work, leaving herself no time to properly socialize since the beginning of the quarter. Social life is a crime to give up in her book, but something tugged at her to always strive for the top. It was an awful habit Maude hesitated to admit. I've just been busy, is all. Maude took a big gulp of her coffee. No matter how hard she tried, it still left the most unsatisfying taste. Oh, wow, Alicia mused with a sarcastic lilt to her voice. Part of the school party committee, huh? What did they do again? Prom? Oh, right, I remember. Definitely the most fun thing you can go to. A room full of awkward high schoolers without any alcohol to grease the wheels. Alicia chuckled, her feet behind her raising up into the air and slowly drawing circles as she kicked them back and forth. So what I'm hearing is you haven't had fun since high school. You know, I'm pretty sure you share a ton of classes with that guy. Oh gosh, what's his name? Chris? Yet he's out here partying every single weekend. What gives, girlie? Oh dear. Yep, she's gone into full teasing mode. She tried her best to remain uninvolved and mess-free, but this was just too tempting not to jump on. Such blatant confidence balanced on a frame of toothpicks and high school reputation. It doesn't get much juicier. Maude folded her arms, staring at Alicia coldly. What gives is that this is the hardest semester yet. They're throwing new techniques at us so fast, it's like... Maude raised her hand to her head, twirling it out rapidly in a sort of chaotic motion. I will admit that I might be... She cleared her throat, keeping her composure. A little tense. Maude cocked her head to one side, narrowing her eyes at Alicia with a sickeningly sweet smile. I know that you think I just need to get some. Yeah, I heard you talking to Olivia. But there are other ways of having fun than to just... Maude scoffed, her eyes running up and down Alicia in the most judgmental way she could fashion. Maude smiled, batting her eyes slightly. Throw yourself at some insufferable film student. Alicia's grin returned back to the close-lipped smile, eyes forming little squinty half-moons as Maude kept talking. This girl could give some lip back, it seems. That's fun. A little is an understatement, sweetie. You look like a strong wind could snap you in half some days. She kicked her legs a few times more before letting them drop back on the couch with a little bounce. She interlaced her fingers, resting her chin atop them as the words curled over her lips. Well, what a shame. I'm devastated. She smirked, taking a deep breath as she waltzed firmly into the next sentence. I mean, I was right. I still think you need to get laid, or do literally anything else to unwind, but I get it. Some people just aren't born to let loose, and that's great. Society needs boring people too. The grin was back, though it was a little different this time. Her eyes were a little sharper, giddier. This was more of a challenge than it was an indirect insult. This was meant to get a reaction. She wasn't just irritating now, she was a downright menace. Here Maude was, graciously letting her remain lazily strewn across their sofa, and this was how Alicia was to act. It was clear as ice that Alicia was determined to press any button she could. Any hint of weakness, and Alicia was sure to sink her teeth into it like a hungry shark. But Maude was all too stubborn. "Oh, yes, of course." Maude nodded, for a moment looking genuinely interested. She shrugged. "It's the same thing as society needing couch bums to remind children of the dangers of skipping classes." Maude gasped dramatically as she gave Alicia a teary-eyed pout. "You really are so brave, Alicia, for setting the bar so very low. Thank you for your service." Her hand pressed itself firmly against her chest as she clicked her tongue in pity. "Oh, all right. Okay, so that's how it was going to be." Alicia frowned, partly for the drama of it all, but it's not like she had to pretend much to let the expression take over her features. She pushed herself up straight onto the couch again, leg flailing a little before finding solid ground, standing up to her full, impressive 5-foot-something of height. As she did, she was immediately reminded of why she had been laying down in the first place, as an almost icy wave of pain throbbed against the side of her skull. She held a hand to the side of her head for a moment whilst her face crumpled up, waiting for the pain to subside. When it became manageable again, she meandered forward until she reached the kitchen counter. She leaned her body against the countertop, torso angling forward and to the side. Hanging in front of Maude was the cascade of faded, artificial red hair tumbled down her shoulder. She smiled again, after which she whispered conspiratorially, "It's okay if you're a little sheltered nerd. No one would judge you for not knowing what a real party looks like. I hear people find it cute when girls are a little innocent, but honey..." Alicia fake pouted at Maude, eyes still challenging. "Don't pretend to be something you're not. You'll only embarrass yourself." Maude leaned forward across the counter. Their faces were now inches away. From this distance, Maude could count each eyelash on Alicia, the remnant of last night's mascara smeared slightly beneath her waterline. As she leaned closer, her perfume gently wafted toward Alicia, a mild and clean scent like fresh laundry. Maude's eyes narrowed, her eyebrows raising. The heat prickled at the back of her nape. Even just looking at Alicia made her ears ring with irritation. Her head tilted slightly with a competitive smirk. "I am fun. I know how to have just as much fun, if not more, as you do. I think you're just scared that everyone else will flock to me instead of you." Maude turned around, taking the grilled cheese out of the microwave and setting it in front of Alicia. She stood up straight once more, flipping her hair off her shoulder. Her tone was flat and indifferent. "Here, you look like chewed up roadside strawberry gum with that hangover." Alicia's smirk did not fade as Maude leaned in, though she could feel her heart beating in her chest. What was this? Was she about to kiss her? Talk about weird flirting. Stupid move, too. It would just make all her arguments so far entirely worthless, because it would clearly all be due to jealousy or something weird like that. She kinda hoped this wouldn't be a kiss. It would be disappointing if it was this easy. A small wave of relief washed over her as Maude pulled away again, the words still ringing in Alicia's ears. The smirk dropped for the first time as she watched the other fiddle around with the microwave and set the food in front of her. She pursed her lips for a moment, looking at the food. "I didn't ask her to make that." She shrugged, ignoring the insult and picking up the plate to take a bite. She took a deep breath and sighed contently as the fatty cheese taste flooded her mouth. God, that tasted so good, even though it was microwaved leftover cheese. Despite everything, this sandwich was the best one she'd had in a while. She couldn't help but hum happily as she ate it, a content smile on her face as she focused on the cheese, crumbs gathering on the corner of her mouth. She paused for a moment to look back up at Maude. All right then. Prove it." She said it casually, no real sense of intent or annoyance, just an offhand, slightly cheeky comment. She wiped the crumbs off the corner of her mouth as she continued. "A girl in my photography course is throwing a party tomorrow night. Prove you can be more fun than me. We'll see who they like better." There was a small pause between them as Maude set the container in front of her. This wasn't anything special. It was just a sandwich. A leftover sandwich. Maude folded her arms, watching as Alicia dug happily into the grilled cheese. "Is this sandwich really that good?" Her thumb circled her arm. If your head really hurts, you should really drink some medicine. Her tone sounded a little more genuine, but still had an air of indifference. Her fox-like demeanor fading for a moment to reveal a comfortable, content look on her face. It wasn't that bad. Certainly better than the Cheshire cat grin that she bore all the time. It was amusing how she hummed as she ate. Maude turned her attention out the window. After a few moments of Alicia speaking, Maude's attention finally snapped back on her. A party, huh? The thought of getting out and socializing, aside from proving Alicia wrong, did sound amazing at the moment. It had been too long since Maude donned on a proper party outfit. Maude hummed slightly and thought, all right. She sighed, looking down at Alicia. She rested her palms on the counter, bending a little as she leaned her weight on her palms. Her lips tugged a small competitive smile. Fine, I'll go. We'll see who's really the life of the party, Alicia took another bite of the sandwich as the girl hummed. She hadn't answered any of Maude's previous questions as she was too busy stuffing her face with this grilled cheese, but the motherly nagging was noted. This girl was one of those types who couldn't help but try to be on top of everybody, making sure people were feeling okay. One of those extroverts. Not that that was a bad trait to have, it's honestly a nice thing to care about, but it needed a certain amount of self-importance to put yourself in that role sometimes. People faked it all the time. She wasn't going to attribute any points to Maude for doing so until she knew she meant it. All right. Alicia's face lit up, swallowing the last bit of her food as Maude loomed over her. Awesome. The party starts at 7, so be ready by 7:15. If you aren't done by then, I'm dragging you over there as you are at that moment, so better hope you're dressed. She bounced a little on her heels as she brought one finger up to Maude's face and bopped her on the nose. With a self-satisfied smile, she wandered out of the kitchen, over to the room in which she had made her little space. As she opened the door, she called out, "Thanks for the food. I'm going to pass out for 40 hours.